guys, to my first episode of my powerlifting competition prep. So for those of you that are unaware, I've decided to compete in my first competition happening on the 20th of May this year in the 75 kilo weight class. So over the course of these 8 weeks, I'll be logging my training, how I'm feeling, maybe to some extent some of the stuff that I'm eating, and obviously how it's impacted me overall and how I'm progressing as my training goes. So obviously we've got some deadlifts here, and this whole week was revolved about going a little bit lighter, just dropping back at 80% of my new 1 rep maxes and just feeling things out. So for a good few of the exercises that I did this week was focused on just not using a belt at all, just to actually force myself to actually train and perhaps lighter purposefully, without actually overexerting myself or giving myself that excitement to want to overexert myself too much. So here with the Romanian deadlifts now, obviously these I've not done in a long time, so I was unsure about whether I would feel them, but the day after, my hamstrings were certainly toasted. Squats now with 95 kilos. This was the lightest it's been. It was a little bit of a joke, and I was very surprised how easy this was. But generally it was all quite good. So going off topic for a second, I want to actually talk about why I've decided to compete in my first powerlifting competition. So there's 3 particular reasons. The first reason is to remain accountable. So what I actually mean by this is, for me personally, each and every year I write down goals for myself, whether that's actually goals within my career that I want to achieve, or either it's personal goals. So for example, last year I said that I want to run and complete a full marathon. Now I actually went and did that and died, and I was in severe pain for a good few days, but regardless I trained for it and I did do it. And this year obviously I've written goals for myself. So ideally I wanted to actually squat 120 kilos, done that already, bench 85 kilos and deadlift 175 kilos. So the point of this is actually to remain accountable and actually to keep myself in line and actually make sure that I'm actually striving towards that to achieve that, so that I don't lose motivation, so that I'm keep on grinding forward to actually finally achieve something. Because at the end of the day, when I've actually met those numbers, I can say to myself that I achieved those at the end of the day, and no one else is going to be able to take that away from me. The second reason for wanting to compete, is personally I've always wanted to. There's been a kind of personal motivation of mine, but there's been no sort of a real physical backing, and a good chunk of that has been just a number of bullshit excuses that I've made for myself. So one of them would have been that I'm simply not strong enough, and an excuse that I personally made for myself was that and said to myself was that at a point where I can comfortably squat 100 kilos for a 1 rep max, then I will actually compete. Now I've done that last year in early April, and then after taking a break due to obviously taking different goals, I did that again towards the back end of the year, except I did it for a triple. So essentially doing so would actually keep me from not actually making excuses anymore, and actually trying to be real with myself and actually say, okay, David, cut the bullshit, because frankly you're being a little bitch. So yeah, that's the second reason. And the final one would be actually from a competitive aspect. So I don't actually think that I'm the strongest person in the world. Now, obviously, the strongest person in the world right now is Eddie Hall, obviously with a 500 kilo deadlift. Now, I don't think that I could do that, given obviously I'm like a quarter the size of him. But from a competitive aspect of what powerlifting is and what it has to offer, I think it's certainly interesting. So obviously my weight class at the moment is 75 kilos. Now obviously to assess myself on how strong I physically am or weak in my weight class, then obviously actually having to compete in my first competition would give me an idea of that and actually set that in stone in real life. So for sure, I mean, I could say that okay, yeah, I've got a 200 kgs deadlift, but if I did that in the gym, it doesn't really have a lot of clout, and obviously I can't really compare that against someone that's perhaps done that in a competition if they've done a full powerlifting meet. So for me to do a powerlifting meet as well, that kind of puts me in a sufficient standing actually to say, okay, yes, these are actually my numbers on a full day, with actually official referees that are actually reviewing each of my lifts and actually giving me obviously a white light if it's good and a red light if it's bad. So those are my particular reasons, and generally I feel like actually if I actually compete, it actually gives me a bit of incentive to actually get stronger, to be a little bit better than the next person even. And if I have an opportunity one day to even compete at national level, then by all means that would be awesome. But obviously I can't really do that unless I actually push myself a little bit more, and signing up for a competition is actually the first step of actually doing that, to push myself to that point to actually say, okay, I can be a little bit stronger here. I can actually force myself to actually do a little bit more training, just actually to keep myself accountable. So those are all my reasons, and I really do hope that you've enjoyed this video. So I'm going to close out, and thanks all for joining me, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.